Y'all, brokish must officially be out of topics because I heard they down here talking about shopping at Fashion Nova and she ain't got something to do with racism. Now, besides, even if that's true, what does racism have to do with the environment? Can the air really be racist? And even if the environment is suffering and all of this stuff is happening, isn't that an over there problem? What can I do about it anyway? Well, y'all, we're talking about it after the break. Hey, brokers, I'm Amber.
And I'm Erika.
Did you forget, sis? It took you a little long.
I said it.
Okay, I'm just saying it. I'm just saying it took you a little long, but that's all right.
I'm Erika.
Okay. And this episode, you guys, we are talking about sustainability, and we are talking about what it looks like at the intersection of the fight for our environment, for fast fashion, and racism, because I think a lot of us don't recognize how the individual pieces of our life all connect in the systems and in the structures that we're trying to overturn to free our people. And one of the things about widening the scope of Brokish this season has been to help people see that besides just the money component, so many things that we do, so many choices that we make in our everyday life are interrelated. And so today we're talking about how the fast fashion industry not only impacts the livelihood of Black creatives, but how the racism and the climate components of it are detrimental to us creating a true model of sustainable liberation. So I am so excited for us to discuss this and unpack it. And we also have a special guest today. But before we introduce her and loop her in, Erika, what you been doing, sis?
Amber, I've been down to the schoolhouse. I had to go down to the schoolhouse, Amber, and cause trouble because the people messing with my cheering.
Ooh, did you wear a bonnet?
So,
no, of course not. You're respectable. She's a respectable Negro. I forgot. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, look, you know what I say? I was down to the schoolhouse. I really meant I was on Zoom. Come on now. We still in the pandemic.
Of
Amber,
course.
I wasn't really there.
Of course.
But I called the people. We talked about before, Amber, you know how my daughter has dyslexia.
Mm-hmm.
And the people were just acting like they didn't want to give my baby her accommodations.
Ooh.
And I'm thinking to myself, you mean the accommodations that are mandated by federal law?
Right, by federal
Those are the
law.
ones y'all were thinking about. Y'all don't want to give my baby. We don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I had to call down to the schoolhouse and talk to the counselor about how I thought, you know, she might have been a little lazy. But we're good now. Everything is fine. I didn't get arrested, even though it was virtual. That's good. I'm still here.
Amen.
So all right.
Amen. Mm-hmm. Amen.
Yes.
And I
what you been up to?
I've been sitting in my closet where I'm at right now. I've been waiting for my apology. Just call me the Black female Chris Rock. See, y'all gonna remember when the episode comes out tomorrow, y'all will see that I was falsely accused of having bootleg internet, of being the reason why the episode was freezing, of being the reason why all the problems were happening on the episode. And so let me tell y'all what happened. So late last night, I got a text that said, "What if I told you it wasn't really you, it was me?" I said, "Oh, so after all of that, shit talking. Turns out I'm hashtag not guilty." So what I've been doing is sitting here in my closet with my bootleg set up because I don't have no recording studio in my house. I've been waiting for my apology. So go ahead, sis. Go ahead. Make sure it's loud because, you know, I got these
Amber,
dollar store headphones on.
Amber, I know, you say that you're a woman of the word, you know, a Christ follower. How many times are you supposed to forgive me? 7 times, 70. How many times are you supposed to forgive?
I'm Baptist. That's
people?
not in our Bible.
I want to know that first.
I'm Baptist. That's not in our Bible.
Okay. Anyway, Amber, I'm coming to you as humbly as I know how.
Okay.
And I just want to say that I am sorry for talking about the quality, the integrity, the fidelity of your internet service.
Hallelujah.
And I just ask that you would forgive me.
Hallelujah.
and that we would be able to move on in peace and in fellowship.
Hallelujah. Well, you know what? I received that, and I give agape love back to you, and I bid you peace. I just wanted my public apology. I held my peace and I let the Lord fight my battles, and the word came true. No weapon formed against me, against my online presence, prospered. Hallelujah. So I just want to say, I forgive you. I forgive you. Okay. Mm-hmm.
I'm glad we're better now.
Thank you. And see, this is a
now,
important
can you quit
part.
showing out in front of our company?
I'm sorry. This is really technically, this is not technically company. So I have to tell you guys, I love it when brokish sort of intersects with our real lives, because it's weird. Like sometimes I sit and I think like, yo, we know some dope ass people, right? And people that's like really out here, like changing the world, making a difference. So I have to tell y'all, back in 2004, when I was a sophomore in college, I signed up to be a mentor at the Black Student Services Center at GW, right? And so I got 2 mentees that year. And I'm very proud to say that I still keep in touch with.
Does everybody know what GW is?
Oh, George Washington University. I'm sorry. GW, George Washington. Okay. Go Colonials. That's can you believe you just heard that on Brokish? go Colonials. Know, right? But anyway,
the views expressed by Amber Sims are not those.
Right. So one of those 2 mentees is here with us today, and I'm just like so stoked. Like I really don't even have the words. We have a fashion law expert, a climate justice warrior. We got a creative, an anti-racist soldier that's out here doing righteous work. Whitney McGuire is so many things. And I'm so proud to know her. I'm so proud to witness the things that she's doing. So I'm just tell you guys a little bit about her, and then I'll let her introduce herself. But she graduated from George Washington University, not GW, in 2008. And then she went on to attend law school at Catholic University. And like so many Black women, she found that the intersection of her interest in law and fashion, that there really was not a path blazed. So she just started cracking through the dirt and made her own, and worked at Fashion Law Week. She's been of counsel at a law firm representing Black creatives, and she is a co-founder of Sustainable Brooklyn with Dominique Drakeford. And their work really focuses on using that creative space where she lends her voice and her expertise to creatives to also help create sustainability as well. And so much of what we wear, how we shop, impacts the environment. And so much of that is undergirded by the systemic racism all around us, and we don't know. And oftentimes the voices that we see in this space are white people. And so we assume that the only people working to protect the environment, the only people working to protect creative spaces are people who don't look like us and who don't share our interests. And so I'm so glad to have Whitney here with us today to be Exhibit A that is not true. It's not true. And it's just an outright lie. And so thank you for joining us. And we are so happy to have you here on Brokish.
Thank you for having me. This is such a welcome. Good full circle moment for me.
I know.
Thank you.
I know. So let's just start by, filling in the blanks and filling in some of the gaps of what I told the brokers. But just tell us a little bit more about who you are. We are nosy Southern chicks. Who your people, baby? Who your people? Where you from? What you do? So just tell us a little bit about you before we jump into the meat of the conversation.
Sure. You covered a lot of the bases, but just to start, my people are from Georgia and Tennessee, respectively, and they moved to Ohio during my great-grandparents' generation. So come from sharecroppers who then became workers in the automotive industry. We moved to the west side of Dayton, Ohio. So that's where both sides of my family are from. And the west side for me was really like a Black utopia growing up. I mean, we really did not have to intersect or interact with whiteness outside of really just like school occasionally, and other things that the adults were doing that I was not. Right. So for me, it was really a beautiful upbringing, and I was only there for 13 years, and within those 13 years, I saw the rapid decline of my town go from just this bustling, vibrant Black utopia to quickly experiencing deep deinvestment, denigration, all types of devaluing of our neighborhoods. We saw gas stations and hospitals and grocery stores close within those 13 years, restaurants, everything. So I moved to I actually got a full tuition scholarship on my own to go to boarding school. And I should also give you some context for that decision. I was raised by an artist. I was raised by an educator and artist. She was both. She's a teacher and a jazz singer. And mom didn't want to stay in Dayton either. So she was like, look, I'm moving to Vegas. You can either stay here and go to school and live with your dad, or you can figure something out when we get out west, but you're not going to school in Vegas because I'm going there because the school system is so bad. And so I had heard about boarding school through the grapevine, but it was definitely not something that was common. And I ended up getting a full tuition scholarship to school in Newport, Rhode Island. And that's where I, saw how white people live. I mean, 100%.
Girl, you went to boarding school. That was always my dream, Whitney.
Wow.
Did you always wish to go to boarding school?
I did go to a boarding school, but I didn't live there. So no, it wasn't my dream.
You know what I mean, Amber. People say boarding school, they're talking about live away.
I know, but I'm saying I was at a white prep school. So by the time I knew that boarding schools existed, I was over it.
Over it, yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I was when I got to GW. I was just over it.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I think you met me and I was just like, what are we doing here?
I know. Yes.
What are we really doing?
Yes.
So quickly, I joined the NAACP, BSU, like all the Black organizations, got, very involved in community service and activism in college, majored in Africana studies. Well, minored because we were still at that time fighting for it to be recognized as a major. Yes. As a major, or really any type of disciplinary study. So it was quite the battle. But GW kind of set me on this path to understanding the intricacies of policy and how certain decisions were designed and how they impact communities. I was burnt out from college, 2008. We graduated into a recession. It was like, what is happening? All of the lies, just came crumbling down, and we started to see.
You didn't work hard enough, Whitney? Like, is that what happened to you? You didn't work hard enough. You didn't do the right thing.
I know, right? I didn't pull my bootstraps up.
Right.
I guess so. That's. But yeah, so we were. I mean, I just got the first job that I really could get, which was being a paralegal. And I had no idea what a paralegal was. And I'm so grateful for that job, but I still, was not where I wanted to be. And so I did that for 2 years while also being a development coordinator for a nonprofit for children with disabilities. And really just like trying to figure something out with my life. And also trying to keep my mom's house from being in foreclosure, which we did not prevent, but that's another story. And I decided when I got laid off that I could probably just go to law school and make more money than the associates that I was supporting, which was the impetus for my decision to go to law school. It really was just like, I want to know the social code, and I also want to make more practical decisions than my parents did. But at the heart of my interest is design and creativity and art. And so in law school is where I was introduced to fashion law and this idea that the fashion industry has a whole set of laws that govern it and that undergird it. And, there needs to be people like me and us in these spaces, because I already knew going in that fashion was so political, especially for Black people. I knew that the foundation of the fashion industry was premised on, the transatlantic slave trade, colonialism. So, I'm coming in with that knowledge and not really seeing the conversations match up. So I joined with students at Howard University School of Law, and we started producing Fashion Law Week, just a bunch of Black girls. And, we were all students.
I love it.
Trying to, bring these concepts from, the ivory tower of academia and corporate America into the hands of the people who really needed it. And so that was my first experience doing more like non-traditional education. We did that for 4 years. I also worked on legislation for fashion copyright. I worked in-house. I have kind of a wealth of backgrounds in different types of practice areas, but ultimately landed on intellectual property when I graduated from law school, again with no job, and ended up working at a furniture store, to make ends meet. And I worked there for 2 years while I built my own practice from scratch, from the ground up, with very little guidance, but primarily focused on supporting Black musicians, artists, and fashion designers in interpreting their contracts, because I had a skill set that they did not. And I'm just in my core not a gatekeeper. So I wanted to make sure that my clients understood the types of agreements they were getting into. Then I ended up working for a federal judge in Nevada. And that was, we could talk about that all day.
I can only imagine.
Wild. For 2 years clerking at the federal courthouse that they had the Bundy trial, the same summer as Philando Castile murder. Just like wild juxtapositions of just like existence. And then I moved back to Brooklyn, and I meet up with Dominique, slide into her DMs, and Sustainable Brooklyn was born from there. So,
who is Dominique?
Dominique is the co-founder of Sustainable Brooklyn. We about
Dominique
to get
there.
Yes. So it's
okay.
interesting because I think when a lot of our people, particularly, we hear conversations about sustainability, we picture like white hippies sitting, crisscross applesauce, meditating and eating vegan crackers and they just assume there's no place for people like us. And so tell the brokers what you and Dominique really want our people to know about sustainability, what it is, and why we are stakeholders in that movement as well.
I want people to know that sustainability is deeply political. And I say that because we, as a concept and as a practice, it's something that has always existed, right? And in fact, it has been perfected by cultures of color, melanated cultures.
We don't have a lot.
Exactly. We've got Timbuktu, we've got Mali, we've got, the raffia that is created by Zulu nations, and we have just so much of a rich history in textile development and resource management and systems design, and in the preservation of our natural resources, including ourselves. And so, with the entry of colonialism and colonial thinking, imperialism, really a lot of methods or systems that are built on the exploitation of a certain class of people in order to sustain itself. Right. Sustainability then becomes a necessity for survival. And, who better to understand the root of that than, communities that have been subjugated, not just, de facto and de jure, subjugation. Who better to understand like the inner workings of applying sustainability as a method of survival, but us, and I mean, when we talk about, just fashion in general, we can start from the transatlantic slave trade, while we also have examples of what happened before then. We can look at the indigo trading as, the hidden commodity. We can look at cotton being, the main driver of the Industrial Revolution. We have all of these examples of how our hands and our bodies, created the foundation for this industry. And then talk about our culture, right? Because as fashion is becoming political and as we are using textiles and our clothing to send messages of resistance, of survival, of regeneration and joy, we're seeing these styles and habits being co-opted by the mainstream, which is very violent. And so when that happens, our contributions are by and large, just omitted from the conversation. Yeah. And so when the omission happens, that also creates the erasure. And it's just that it's so intricately linked to what happened, to my hometown in Dayton, Ohio. These systems, these ways of thinking of communities and this culture of waste that we really have, seen really over the last 20, 30 years become such a huge problem. And now it's in the, zeitgeist, in the conversation when it comes to the environment. But really, I want people to know that the environment also includes the communities that make up the environment. And, our communities have been the originators of sustainability beyond, just what it is now.
So yeah. Whitney, I'm thinking about like a lot of different things I want to ask you. So I'm trying to figure out the first place to start. But one of the things you just talked about is you talked about the omission and the erasure. Mm-hmm. But I'd love for you to talk to us about the theft, because we know, especially in this world of fashion, that sometimes what happens is you have Black creatives who might be making things, and because social is social, and if you're not using social, then you can't really promote your products, then they go to social to promote their products, and then their work is stolen by bigger brands, and other people just take it and say it's their own. So can you talk to us about, in your work, how you've seen that play out, and if you do know what people can do to sort of protect themselves from that?
Sure. I mean, a large part of my sustainability work is addressing appropriation, and also knockoff culture, counterfeit culture. I think that, when we talk about this conversation of fast fashion and why it's like such a beast because of the convergence of social media and some disposable income, and also a lot of psychological impacts that we're all collectively experiencing. We are often not talking about the ways that, Black creators in general are choosing to, or not choosing, but they're creating out of necessity, a lot of them. And so the impacts of appropriation are not just like, I'm taking this thing and we can hash it out in court. No, this has generational impacts on their livelihoods, on their emotional well-being, on their ability to provide for themselves, their families. And so I see this happen all the time. And we can use Dapper Dan as like an example in modern, pop culture. Like more famous example, but we all know that Dapper Dan had a huge business creating and repurposing luxury textiles, luxury handbags and accessories, and creating apparel. And at the time, these luxury houses were not creating apparel. So, you know, we put on our legal hats, we know that like that's not a textbook case of any type of like trademark dilution or infringement, because you're not even functioning in that
space.
But you know, because of the way money and our legal systems work, these fashion houses, I think in particular it was Gucci. I might be mistaken, but one of the luxury houses was effective in getting the FBI involved, and you know, his whole atelier got shut
they
down
sent the cops after the black man,
20
Whitney.
years. Yeah, for more than 20 years. And then we see on social media this same design that he created for Diane, forgot her last name. I'm brain farting right now, but she's an athlete, and he created these very voluminous sleeves. It's like a bomber. And so Gucci Cruise Line came out with a very similar jacket. And because we have receipts now and we have social media, they were put on blast for the appropriation, which was really a beautiful turn of events, because up until that point, we really hadn't seen that type of calling out of appropriation by a fashion brand, especially a luxury fashion brand, really ever, especially when it comes to a Black artist's work.
But one quick question about that. But does getting put on blast mean that Dapper Dan got some money, right? Because I feel like that's what happens sometimes, right? Okay, perfect. Because corporations get shamed and then, but did they have to do this?
Yeah, this example was really interesting, which I still think is too little too late, right? Like I want it all destroyed.
Right. Burn it down.
What they did, right? What they gave him his own atelier. So he was able to sell his own works. I think they gave him a collaboration. And I believe there might be like a seat on some type of like executive level leadership board or advisory council. So it worked out for Dapper Dan. But like you said, that is just one, like that example is an anomaly, right? Because the trend or the normal act for appropriation and for companies, just to extract from Black creators is just that there's no remorse and there's no attempt at even acknowledging that this is appropriation. And so we see that with, the Kardashians, we see that with, just the mass appropriation of not only our clothing, but our hairstyles, the way we speak, the way we interact with, each other. It's just, it's rampant, and it causes so much more than just, emotional harm, right? This has very real financial impacts on our communities and our ability to sustain ourselves as creators.
Yeah. And I think it's also interesting that so many of us, just in our everyday lives and in how we've been raised and how we've been socialized, to the point you made about sustainability being organic to who we are, so many of us just assume there's no place for us when, I remember seeing maybe like last year, somebody had put up a picture of a beach full of plastic bags. And they were like, well, don't blame Black people because all of ours are under the cabinet. Okay. Like we've been reusing. we've been reusing, right? We've been passing down clothes. Like
They're my trash can right now.
My grandma got all of them.
Yes. We've been repurposing. We've been taking the clothes that got too little for one child. And, like my grandmother used to cut my pants up when they got too short and make some Bermuda shorts out of them, and put and so it's so shorts. Funny how all of those things, like we've been shamed and sort of castigated culturally, and they've ghettoized all of these things, which are really now at the heart of sustainability, reusing, repurposing, avoiding waste, avoiding the proliferation of waste. And now all of these things are so trendy, when for years, when we did it not to be, trendy or hip, but really to survive, we were denigrated for it. And so I think one of the most important things that I hope people take away as they listen to you talk is that not only are we a part of it, but the things that they're profiteering off of right now, the things that they are calling hip and trendy, are things that we've been doing in our community for forever. And so if nothing
ain't that
else
the American
happens,
way?
Yes. A consciousness to know that not only are we a part of it, but we started it. We started it. And so, we've been reusing our plastic bottles because we could, we've been doing that stuff. We've been doing it. And to see, like you said, a world now where we can actually hold people accountable when they try to come out here and pretend like they're doing something new. It is refreshing, because for so long they've been able to just co-opt these things and then take all the credit, and take all the credit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we all know what it's like to have the cookie tin, and you're like, I know there are no butter cookies in there, right?
No.
There's gonna be like threads,
pins and needles for sewing,
pins and needles. Yeah, it's just hair bow, like anything, but the cookies.
Yes.
So we all know what that is like, and it's really interesting. There's also this like underlying class discussion, because we also have been huge drivers of the aversion to sustainability. I at least when I was growing up, I was shopping secondhand because I couldn't really afford name brand things, and I was definitely on the receiving end of some roasting. So I think that there are, I'm just so careful with Black people when we talk about these things, because our entire lineage, our traumas, our joys, all of it is really intricately woven into this conversation. And so there really, for me, can't be like a very black and white, like fast fashion is bad, but this is good. I have to really digest all of it, in order to arrive at a conclusion. So yeah.
Yeah. No, that's definitely fair.
Well, so Whitney, as you talk about, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, as you talk about fast fashion, right? I'm going to talk about Amber. I'm not going to talk about myself. I know Amber, she might be scrolling Instagram or Facebook or something, and you're inundated with the ads, right? And she's overcome with Shein and Fashion Nova and all the things, and they make it look so good, right? And then you also have this social pressure of, I can't be seen in the same thing twice. And, what will the people think of me? And all these things are sort of coming together. So how do we individually play a part in the things that we're doing to sort of subjugate ourselves and then other people around the world? And do we need to stop doing that? What's your advice? Do I need to stop before I go on vacation buying 10 swimsuits? Because it just doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you don't need 10 swimsuits.
Whitney was like, yeah, just that's stupid.
There are some things that we, as habits that we have just collectively, regardless of socioeconomic status, location, we just gotta stop. So the 10 swimsuits for a 3-day vacation, don't do that, and I think that this aversion to wearing the same thing twice or more than once is a byproduct of celebrity culture, and of just and a byproduct of aspiration culture too. I think social media has made celebrity kind of shortened the gap between the common people, and the celebrities. So now it just seems like their lifestyles are somewhat attainable, or we can get the bootleg version. So, I think that is one of the main drivers of the popularity of fast fashion. because we all deserve to look good. We should be able to, have the corporal safety that luxury fashion can sometimes bring people, the access, the, privileges that come with just like the being associated with luxury. And so I can't just say like, for women who prefer to, or people who prefer to shop at Fashion Nova, like stop doing that, because first of all, Fashion Nova is incredibly size inclusive. Like, a lot of these luxury houses, these expensive brands, they're not thinking about, different types of bodies, especially not thin European white women. So Fashion Nova has cornered a part of the market that I really think it's great, and, big women need to look, big people need to look wonderful too, like they're, these trends don't just need to be fitting skinny people. Then there's this other side of, okay, so we're not going to overconsume beyond what we need, right? Like, we can all shoot for that. We're not
you hear that, Amber?
But we're also not going to shame people who do wear fast fashion. We are not going to, cast judgment on people who choose to consume fast fashion, because it has so many entry points to, like I said, just like it's a neutralizer, it's an equalizer. Like if I didn't have access to Forever 21 when I was looking for work in 2008, I would not have even showed up to the point where they would have even like given me a second look, I had to have a little blazer and a little, and I, with my coins back then, that was all I could afford. And that's the reality for a lot of people, a majority of people. So until we have options in terms of, I know we have secondhand, I know we have thrift, but there's still this stigma, especially in our communities, about buying other people's clothes. So, that may not always be an option for people. So until we have, fashion create create a system where, we are addressing the environmental concerns, we're addressing the labor issues, but we're also creating accessible and affordable clothing for the masses, we're going to continue to see these habits. But what we can do is really educate ourselves on the impact of these fashion brands across the board. I'm talking luxury and fast fashion and everything in between. Because no one is without culpability in, this current climate crisis that we're in. So I think this conversation really, that's why Dominique and I are so passionate about re-educating and redefining sustainability, because it's going to take education before really action can have, sustainable impact. Especially for those of us who are first and most impacted by the effects of the climate crisis, which the fashion industry is 100%, or not 100%, but at least like 80% responsible for.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because the complexity of it is also amplified by the fact that so much of this stuff is intersectional and it's interlocking, because I have been every size from a size 10 to a 32. Right. And I had the same issue, I like back when we were in college, there was no place for a girl like me who was a 28 to go get clothes and to be able to get clothes that I could, like when I bought clothes, I had to save or beg for money from my parents, because it was like an investment. It was an investment to a size 28 jeans, like they were expensive. And so, it's like when we address this issue, there's so many things that you are talking about. People need to get paid. People have to survive on what they're making, right? And so I know for me, one of the commitments I've made is I have a little more privilege now. Like, so I do. I have a little bit more financial privilege. And so I try to support as many like Black designers. Like there are a lot of women that I have discovered on social media who make some bomb ass clothes.
Yes.
And I know when I see some of it, like, oh, I could get a maxi dress on Shein for $20. But getting it for $20 on Shein off the back of a brown woman in Asia who's being underpaid and subjected to terrible working conditions, right? And, you know, it's part of really, it's really almost akin to human trafficking in the sense that these people are being trapped in jobs that are terrible, that are literally killing them. And I'm in a position in my own little part of the world to do something about it. So I feel like it's those places where just in the everyday life where you can say, you know what, I'm gonna pay sis $80 for this maxi dress. I'm gonna pay for it because it ain't gonna kill me. It ain't gonna kill me if I do. And it's the right thing to do. And in my own small way, I am trying to undo the thing that's chaining somebody else further down the ecosystem. You know what I mean? And I think we all just have to do that.
Do you all have like a thing playing in your head like I do from my grandmother who used to sew? And so she would always talk to us about making sure that we buy good clothes, making sure that we invest in our wardrobes. And because she sewed, she also knew the time and the effort that it took to make a thing. And so I think it's kind of like now with us and food, we don't necessarily have that same connection. I don't know how to sew. So I'm like, this ought not cost me more than it, you know, it doesn't take that much time, because I don't understand that somebody has to like literally do this by hand, or somebody has to place this thing one at a time. And I do feel like that lack of connection to just the work that goes on makes us not value it. But I am like you, Amber. I do want to sort of start to think about having a wardrobe, like my grandma said, that is not, you know, coming balled up in boxes on my front door, but one that I could actually have and would last.
Right.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Erika, with that word invest. And that's really at the heart of our re-education in terms of how we discuss consumption, especially as Black consumers. You know, we are not consumers, we are investors. And when we are, because everything that we do with our dollars matters so much more. You know, it may not seem like it, but it really does, you know? And so, you know, when we switch our mindset from, you know, consumption to investing, like I'm taking the time to invest in this book and read it, you know, and consume it. I'm taking the time to invest in my wardrobe, to invest in my pantry and what, you know, what foods I have available. It may seem like, you know, that term is like, you know, reserved for the wealthy or for people who have time or, you know, resources, but it's really the opposite. It's for those of us who lack all of those things, you know, it makes it so much more meaningful. And so I think that is one way to bring forth that, you know, that connection again to what we consume. But it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot of time and mindfulness and, you know, behavior changes before we really start to see wide scale shifts. But we already know that we can change in terms of our consumption habits. You know, the pandemic alone showed us that we can stop shopping.
Okay.
You know, we can stop and we don't or we can shift the ways or the things that we are investing in, right? So it's possible. It's just, you know, right now everyone's kind of looking for it to come externally, and we all know that this change has to begin within, and it has to begin within not only the individual but the community, our municipalities, and our general social consciousness.
And we all just have to remember that collective care. Like, I think for so many of us, we have bought into that capitalist poison that if I pull myself up out of a bootstrap, Shanika can pull herself up by the bootstraps. John can pull himself up by the bootstraps. And it's my money. I worked for it. I earned it. I can do whatever I want with it because I have this, unqualified right to live my best life. And I know for me, I'm actually going to share my screen really fast. My mouth hung open for probably like 30 seconds last night when I saw this. Let me see. Can y'all? Oh, let me share. Child. Erika, you told me to do this and I don't know how. Okay, let me cancel this.
We didn't practice. You want to drop it in the chat? Maybe I can pick it up for you.
I don't know how to do that. Oh, just the link. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna do that because I don't have time for this. Okay, but there's a landfill in Ghana. So it was talking about how the United States is the number one consumer of clothes, and like 85% of what we purchase ends up in landfills in Ghana. And y'all, like that, it was just crazy to me. Girl, where the chat at? Hell, I don't even know. Oh, I see it. Never mind. But it broke my heart to see that something I was doing or a choice I was making was like halfway across the world. Like, and it talked about how dangerous it was because there are people who that's how they work. Like they go through and they try to mine stuff out of those landfills to resell and how dangerous it is. It was talking about how people get injured. There's lots of crimes. Like it starts a lot of infighting, people fighting over stuff they find in the landfills. And I think really, even though geographically it might be far away, like we've got to have a mindset of collectivity where we really become our people's keepers. Even if you're over there, even if you're far away, if I know that 80% of the people who work in these textile industries are BIPOC women and they're being paid less than $1 a day, like at some point, as just an issue of moral clarity, like I have to care about that. I have to care about the fact that people are suffering for me to live my best life. And for me, that was one of the things that weighed heaviest on me when I was doing research to prepare for this, how much the waste we proliferate, how much the junk we buy just gets sort of exported and dumped on other people's doorsteps like their problem. And it's just heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
It is. It's heartbreaking. It really is.
Just put it in the receipts. I'm sorry, Whitney, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Erika.
Here's the thing that is surprising and unsurprising, right? Is that how does capitalism always seem to find Black people?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, how is it that Ghana just became the place that all the clothes were going to end up in? I mean, we talked about how America is the largest consumer of fast fashion. So how do we all of a sudden get the clothes over in Ghana? And so I'm just surprised, but I'm not surprised. And I'm like, how does it happen?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many takes on this, but this is a habit of the fashion industry that has long existed before the landfills in Ghana. I know that the Dominican Republic, Haiti were, one of the first places that the fashion industry found exploitative labor and cheap labor. They, pillaged those nations and then, moved a lot of their operations to China, Bangladesh, to Turkey, Pakistan, and now we have this. And by the way, Haitian garment workers are still protesting en masse, for like incredible labor.
They wanted just $15 a day is what they've been protesting
and health
for.
Insurance, which is what their government is mandated to provide for them, or at least their employers. And that didn't happen, especially during the pandemic. So that's happening currently still. And with this tendency to consider certain communities, certain people as waste, I think that this is just an example. Ghana is just an example of many of this culture of wasting human beings for the profit of a certain few. And I lived in Ghana for 6 months. I saw, firsthand these landfills. It was appalling, deeply appalling. And this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this work in the first place, because I saw so many similarities between Ghana and Dayton. We may not have like incredible landfills like that, but we have brownfields. We have, just buildings that are sitting with like old electronic, machinery and equipment and polluting our groundwater and our air. We're seeing greenhouse gas emissions that don't need to be reported by most industries in the United States, just continuing to impact the air quality in urban centers where Black people are concentrated on coasts and, down south. So we're seeing all of these direct impacts of, this habit of wasting communities and cultures. It seems like it's just overseas, but it's happening right in our backyard. Our prison industrial system still uses prison labor for textile development. Companies are still contracting with private prisons for this type of free labor. So this is happening in our backyard.
So, we talked a little bit before about who you call, Whitney, the Kardashians. And because we do tend to get a little bit messy on the show, mostly Amber, less me. But because sometimes we can get a little bit messy on the show. Yeah. So as we think about all this stuff that you've talked about, right? Like we've got these, do we have individual responsibility? We know there's these systemic structures that are putting all these things in place. We know this is a global problem that's happening. We know that as Black people, we have roots in sustainability and all of those things coming together. Who are the people that we are idolizing, that we need to drag right now? Who are the people that we need to bring down and stop looking up to because we know they might be complicit?
I could name so many. I really just think in general we need to divest from celebrity culture. We just need to unfollow all of these people. Just hit unfollow. I swear you will feel so much better. Unfollow. But the Kardashians are a huge container for anti-Blackness, misogynoir, unsustainability. The promotion of overconsumption, and the promotion of an aesthetic that is built on the beauty of Black women, and does not absolutely at all credit Black women for this aesthetic.
Because they were born that way. It's natural.
For it. Oh, okay.
It's natural. They was born that way, sis.
Let me call up their doctor.
I know, right?
Look, some of those doctors do good work. Some of those doctors do good work. And look, I'm not going to talk about that.
Listen, I'm not knocking a good PBO, okay? But I will say that, I think in general, like Kanye, who is a great cultural allegory for so many things, the Kardashians are as well.
Do you think, Whitney, that the Kardashians are a system in and of themselves?
Yeah.
Like if I'm thinking about systemic structures, do they qualify? Are they that powerful and big?
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah. I think the Kardashians are 100% the media right now, and it's dangerous. In addition to the Kardashian machine, I would say, the structure of VC funding and PR firms create, they are really the underlying, I think, monster of how this culture of appropriation, a culture of appropriation and a culture of aspiration have been able to flourish. And I'm not saying that we are without fault, but we are also, we are what we consume. And we are also only able to consume what we know is available to us. So these options have been presented to us as, the standard of beauty, the standard of wealth, the standard of privilege, etc. And so we are striving for this very dangerous state. And it is very individualistic. It's very, I'm gonna get mine. You can do whatever. We respect the wealthy because we think they're somehow smarter, which is just a complete lie. And
y'all know that from boarding school.
Oh,
Facts.
Listen.
Facts.
Do we know?
Facts.
And GW, shoot.
Okay.
And law school, listen. But yeah, this is just these are the people and the types of entities that I place blame on for creating this whole celebrity addiction that we have, and it's really having some really deep impacts on how we can sustain ourselves and what sustainability really truly, if we can be sustainable at all in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So as we close out the show for today, Whitney, what do you think about, what does your perfect world look like? What are we doing? What is happening? What is going on around us, around the world?
Well, Black people have received reparations 100%.
Amen.
Eco reparations, everything. We are savvy consumers, investors. How about that? We are savvy investors. We have the ability to access have our needs met without being dependent upon our labor. We are able to farm and grow our own foods. We have access to clean water collectively, working sewage systems. We are more tapped into spirit, which is a really sad thing these days. Like, we don't really understand the spirituality, the spiritual component of existence. We are more tapped into that. We are hashing out conflicts in a nonviolent way. And we are creating solutions.
You're not talking about Will Smith right now, are you? You're not talking about Will Smith right now, are you?
No, I'm not actually. Because
Okay.
I believe in boundaries, and I believe.
Look, yes.
Listen.
Go, Will, go.
Listen.
Okay.
Anyone who's against that hasn't been loved. Okay.
Amen.
Boundaries. Okay. That was a warning.
Yes.
Warning. But yeah, no, I when I say violence, I mean the structural and institutional ways that we can inflict harm on vulnerable people and communities, without even lifting a finger. So yeah, I see us hashing out conflict without the use of those systems. And I see our children. I see children just freaking happy and healthy and just growing up into wonderful human beings. But it really is about kids for me these days. Like, if I do nothing more, with my life, I just want to plant some really good seeds for them to enjoy the harvest of after I've gone. So that's my perfect world. And good music.
I love your world.
Amen. I'm trying to live in Whitneyville too, okay? Yes.
Yeah. Yes. I know we don't want like titles and stuff in your world. So I was gonna say Whitney for mayor, but I know you don't want to be the mayor. You know, because we all equal. But you know what I'm saying.
I just want to feed the children and rest and hydrate.
Okay.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, listen,
so
y'all.
Whitney, thank you for joining us. It's been such a pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I love this.
This was great. So
Thank
listen,
you for having me.
Y'all, we talk about the small steps. So the homework is just small steps. Okay. We all know that sustainability costs money. All right. It costs money. This work is righteous, but it is not free. So the work that Whitney is doing, the work that Dominique is doing, I hope you don't find it hard to believe that they're not making millions and billions and trillions like the skimware people. Okay. So the homework is I want you to jump on social media and I want you to follow Whitney R. McGuire and Sustainable Brooklyn. And I'm not going to try to spell because y'all know I have difficulty with that, but it's going to be in the receipts. And the first thing that you'll see when you go to the Sustainable Brooklyn page is a way to donate. And whether it's $5, $10, whatever you can, donate to this work, y'all, because we really are all we have. And, you know, if you can't stop shopping at Shein, that's fine. But shop and give $5 to the people that's trying to neutralize and mitigate the effects of how we're all living to make the world better for us and our kids and their kids. So we're going to link that and y'all help out because it's all about collective care.
Can I shout out some people for them to follow?
Please.
Yes.
So Passion Murray, Pashon Murray of Detroit Dirt, doing great work with soil regeneration. I've learned so much from her. Apparently we only have like 40 more or like 50 more years of topsoil left on this planet. So her work is very vital for us, you know, to continue to eat. Ngozi Okoro from Custom Collaborative. They are a co-op that support women who may not have access to skills, and they provide them with skills and also sewing skills and also an opportunity to create their own businesses. We Act, Peggy Shepard, I think that's her last name. She created We Act for environmental justice. They're a dynamic group out here in New York. Dominique Drakeford, follow Dominique. She's got a wealth of knowledge and an amazing podcast called The Root, which gets to the root of unsustainability in the fashion industry. I think that's all for the top of my head, but yeah.
So I'll have you send those to us and then we'll link them in with the receipts and with the homework. And so, let's all support the people doing this, because I promise you when the billboards go up about the environmental goddesses, they ain't gonna name none of those people. So if we don't support them and if we don't amplify their work and their voices, it won't get done. So let's make it do what it do, brokers.
Yeah.
Well, Amber, thank you for the homework. Whitney, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
And brokers, we know that being Black in this country is hard enough every day and just thinking about the today. But we also know that we have a responsibility to ourselves, to our children, to our ancestors, to think about what is going to happen tomorrow. And so just as we're moving in our everyday lives, if we can just stop, take pause, and think about how our choices might make something different in the future. Now, y'all know we believe that it is not us and our individual choices that are going to save us, but we have got to make sure that we are always working as a community and being community minded. And we have to always realize that the struggle that we have is not our own and that we are in this thing with folks from all over the world. So brokers, thanks for tuning into this episode, and we look forward to catching up with you on the next one.